Okay, so we highlighted the first two details on the sixth paragraph. The peaks of the Himalayas were part of the ocean floor millions of years ago. Plate tectonic forces pushed the seafloors into high mountains. Okay, so now turn your page to page 552. A land of contrast. Paragraph 9. Wide differences of altitude in the Himalayas create the many climates found there. The valleys of the outer Himalayas, such as those in India and Burma, are subtropical with hot days and plenty of rain. The valleys of the lesser Himalayas have a temperate climate. Average summer day temperatures there are from 60 degrees Fahrenheit to 77 degrees Fahrenheit, or 16 degrees Celsius to 25 degrees Celsius. Winters are cooler. The Kathmandu Valley of Nepal, in the temperate zone, is populated with many farms and several cities. Paragraph 10. Most of the year's rainfall of 60 inches, 152 centimeters, comes with monsoon winds from June through September. The eastern Himalayas receive more rain. The Himalayas affect the climate of Central Asia by blocking cold weather from the north and humid weather from the south. The high plateau of Tibet to the north in China is dry and dusty. The winters there are cold and long. And if you notice, we have another graphic organizer where the author gave us another mountain fact, and it is also in the shape of a mountain. It says the highest peaks in the Great Himalayas are frozen whirls. Snow and ice stay on the ground year-round. Even the valleys are cold and desert-like, with no trees and few plants. Atop Mount Everest, the oxygen in the air is only 1/3 of that at sea level. It is difficult for plants, animals, and humans to live there. Okay, and if you noticed, in paragraph 9, there was one of our vocabulary words. That's right, altitude. Go ahead and highlight it. And it says, wide differences of altitude in the Himalayas create the many climates found there. And altitude is height or distance above sea level or Earth's surface. Now let's focus on our close read. Explain ideas. It says, underline at least 3 examples of domain-specific vocabulary you might use to determine and explain the ideas in paragraph 9 and 10. So what was the author talking about in paragraph 9 and 10? Okay, so yes, he did talk about the altitude. That is an example, so underline that. He talked about the many climates. Underline climates. He also talked about the subtropical. Underline that one. That's another example. Temperate. Right here. And zone. Right here. Then in paragraph 10, he talked about the rainfall, the monsoon, humid. So how are all these terms related? They all have to do with climate. Okay, so now we're on page 553. Varied vegetation. The altitudes and climates in the Himalayas support many types of plant life. Rainfall, temperatures, and oxygen all affect the species of trees and plants that live in the mountains and in the valleys. The outer Himalayas, once covered with a rich tropical forest, have been harvested. The land is now either farmed or used to graze goats and other livestock. Pine, oak, and poplar trees grow in the lesser Himalayas. People have cut down many of these trees, which has caused erosion. Tree roots are necessary for keeping soil in place on steep mountain sides. They keep the soil from washing away in rain or blowing away in high winds. Even though many of the steep slopes no longer have trees, beautiful wildflowers color the mountain sides. Orchids, lilies, anemones, poppies, and rhododendron flowers flourish among the mountains and valleys of the lesser Himalayas. The tree line in the Great Himalayas is about 16,000 feet, or 4,877 meters. Trees will not grow above this level because of the high altitude and the cold. Okay, now if you notice, we have another vocabulary word. That's right, erosion. And erosion is the process of wearing away or breaking down land over time. So, I know that erosion happens when wind or water breaks down the soil and carries it away. So it makes sense then that tree roots would stop or slow erosion and that cutting down the trees would speed up erosion. So now I wonder whether the roots of all the wildflowers would help slow erosion. Well, I can infer that they would, at least during parts of the year when they are growing strong. I can also infer that erosion might be worse on the tops of the mountains where nothing can grow. And if you look here, the author has included a photograph. And it says the snow-capped peak Annapurna is seen in the distance from this fertile valley in Nepal. And there it is. Okay, now let's focus on our close read. Explain ideas. Underline details that would allow you to explain key ideas about erosion to someone. Okay, so where it says people have cut down, right here, people have cut down many of these trees, which has caused erosion. Tree roots are necessary for keeping soil in place on steep mountain sides. They keep the soil from washing away in rain or blowing away in high winds. Now, what key ideas about erosion can you explain using the words and phrases we just underlined? So we know that erosion happens when wind or water breaks down and carries the soil away. So how do the trees stop or slow erosion? That's right. Their roots hold the soil in place. Okay, now turn to page 554. Amazing animals. Paragraph 12. Leopards, tigers, deer, and Indian rhinoceroses were once plentiful in the forests of the outer Himalayas. When people cut down the trees for lumber, the forest changed, and so did the types and numbers of animals that lived in them. Black bears, leopards, and other cats, and the muntjac, a deer known for making a barking sound, now live in the new existing forests. Okay, paragraph 13. The Great Himalayas, a land of few people, are home to wolves, snow leopards, small bushy-tailed marmots, and musk deer. A kind of tiny black spider lives as high as 22,500 feet, or 6,858 meters. Paragraph 14. The yak is a Tibetan ox that lives on high plateaus and in the mountains. It likes a cold, dry climate. People raise yaks to carry heavy loads and to pull carts. Yaks are a source of milk and meat. Yak hair is woven to make rope and cloth, and yak skin is used for leather. And if you noticed, on the next page, the author has given you a photograph of what a yak looks like. And it says a yak, shown here, with a Tibetan family is a common sight in the Himalayas. And then in the mountain fact, it says the wild yak is a huge animal with long brown-black hair forming a thick coat. Male yaks can be 6.5 feet or 2 meters tall at the shoulders. They can weigh more than 2,000 pounds or 907 kilograms. Now let's focus on our close read. Make inferences. Highlight details that support an inference you can make about humans and the animals of the Himalayas. So remember, an inference is a kind of guess based on a combination of what you already know and what you have read so far. It's not just a wild guess. You have to back it up with evidence. So let's go back and look at paragraphs 12 through 14 and highlight details about animals in the Himalayas. So an inference that we can make in paragraph 12 about humans and animals of the Himalayas, we can highlight this detail. When people cut down the trees for lumber, the forest changed, and so did the types and numbers of animals that lived in them. And then in paragraph 13, you can highlight a land of few people are home to wolves, snow leopards, small bushy-tailed marmots, and musk deer. And then also a kind of tiny black spider lives as high as 22,500 feet. And then in paragraph 14, right here, people raise yaks to carry heavy loads and to pull carts. Yaks are a source of milk and meat. Yak hair is woven to make rope and cloth, and their skin is used for leather. Okay, so now what inferences can you make based on the evidence we highlighted? What idea about humans and animals in the Himalayas is expressed? So we can infer that more animals live where humans do not. One reason is that people cut down trees and destroyed some of their habitats, so the animals have to move. Many or most animals are wild, but yaks seem more like cows. People are use them for milk, meat, and leather. So now you should be on page 555. Many mountain cultures. Paragraph 15. About 40 million people live in the Himalayas. The Himalayas pass through the Indian states. The Himalayas also lie in the kingdoms of Nepal and Bhutan, as well as in Tibet. Paragraph 16. Many of the people who live in the southern countries in the outer Himalayas and lesser Himalayas are of Indian origin and practice the Hindu religion. North of India, most Tibetan people are Buddhist. Nepal has 35 separate ethnic groups. Okay, now we're on paragraph 17. Most people of the Himalayas are farmers who grow fruits and grains and who herd livestock. The Sherpas people live in Nepal's Great Himalayas. The Sherpas are tribes people who came from Tibet and settled in the steep-sided valleys of the Himalayas. Sherpas are known as the best guides for children of these mountains.